Hey everyone, my name is Kerri-Anne. I'm a naturopath, and today we're going to talk about something that affects all of us, and that is stress and overwhelm. So, in today's fast paced world, it's almost impossible to escape stress. But by understanding what stress is, how it presents in our body, and ways we can support ourselves, we can make those changes that help us to live a more balanced life. So, firstly, we're going to talk about what stress is. So, stress is a natural response in our body when we're faced by a challenge or a threat. So, whether it's a real challenge or a threat or a perceived challenge or a threat, our body will switch those stress hormones on. So it triggers a fight or flight response, releasing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. So this is what gives us the energy to deal with a sudden crisis. For example, the example that's used a lot is traditionally, we see a bear, our body perceives the threat, the real threat. We switch into that fight or flight mode, our cortisol and adrenaline is increased, and we have more energy to run from the bear. But unfortunately, in our modern society, the stress response is often triggered by everyday pressures, work deadlines, family demands, financial worries, things that aren't life-threatening but really feel overwhelming anyway. So stress in our body can present in different ways, and we may feel physical symptoms like tense muscles, headaches, digestive issues, or an increased heart rate. So our mind might be racing, those racing thoughts. We might feel anxious or even burned out. So over time, chronic stress can lead to more serious health problems like blood pressure, high blood pressure, fatigue, insomnia, and it can also weaken our immune system and cause digestive issues, because when our body is in that fight or flight stage, it shuts everything down that it doesn't need to run from a bear, like our digestive system and our immune system. And so then those become weakened because we're always in that state of fight or flight. Now, our body's not meant to stay in these heightened states for long periods, but that's what's happening for many of us. So we live in a world that's always on, whether it's social media, constant notifications, work pressure, or family responsibilities. It feels like there's always something demanding our attention. And I've been thinking about this in my own life recently, about how, we used to be able to sit, and I speak for myself, I used to be able to sit and watch television without being on my phone or without feeling like I needed something extra. Or I used to be able to lay outside all day and read a book. Whereas now I find that that's not enough for me, and I feel like I need to be doing something else. So often I'm scrolling on my phone or my laptop whilst I'm watching television. And that's the world of always being switched on. So that means that our nervous systems don't get a break, because we're constantly in a state of doing rather than being. So the expectations that are put upon us, there's ones that we place upon ourselves, which are usually, the highest expectations to achieve so much. And we always fall short of those expectations. They're incredibly high, and we feel like that we have to be perfect mothers, employees, partners, and friends all at the same time. But this constant state of pressure increases our stress levels, leaving us feeling overwhelmed and depleted all the time. And sometimes I find that we may be living in this state of stress and not even realizing that this is a state of stress. So for us, that is a normal state. And I myself found myself in that state. And it wasn't until I brought myself back down into that more relaxed state, which took a very long time and a lot of work. And still now I find myself flicking into that state of stress because that feels like my natural. Once I realized that that wasn't natural and that wasn't normal, I realized how much pressure I was putting on my body, and I realized all those physical symptoms that I was feeling, those digestive issues, the tension in my neck and shoulders, the headaches, the overwhelm, the exhaustion, the can't sleep, all the things related to that high cortisol. But I think the important thing to think about here is, are you in that state of stress and you think that's normal for your body? I think that's a really good question to reflect upon. So let's take a look at how stress works on a physiological level. So how stress is working in our body. So stress activates our sympathetic nervous system. So that's the part of our nervous system that is responsible for that fight or flight response. So when this happens, our adrenal glands release cortisol, adrenaline, and norepinephrine, which prepare us to face whatever challenge we have ahead. So as I said before, the problem is that too many of us stay in this heightened state for far too long, and that's when our adrenals can become exhausted and we can fall into burnout. Now, obviously, this doesn't happen, overnight, within days or weeks. This is chronic stress that is ongoing for months and years. So the counterpart to that sympathetic nervous system is our parasympathetic nervous system. So this is often called our rest and digest system. So it's responsible for helping us feel calm, reducing our heart rate, and promoting relaxation. And when we're in this state of parasympathetic nervous system, our digestive system kicks back in again, which is opposite to when we're in that state of fight or flight, that heightened sympathetic nervous system state, where our cortisol, our cortisol is running high, our body shuts off that digestive system, and then we start begin to get those digestive issues. So that's the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, high cortisol, high adrenaline, as opposed to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest and the slower, more relaxed state. So how do we support our stress response? Because we cannot stop a lot of stress in our lives. We have, family commitments, we have work deadlines, we have things happening, accidents, deaths in the family, power bills and all this kind of stuff that create a lot of this stress. So how can we support our body in dealing with this stress? And it's about supporting our response to the stress. So there's quite a few different ways that you can do this yourself at home. And one of them is breathing exercises. Now, it sounds really simple, but it's really good to stop and have a look and see where your breath is at the moment, because often when we're in that state of sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight state, our breathing becomes more shallow, and if we're in this shallow state, then we're definitely never getting enough oxygen. We're not slowing down our nervous system. So breathing actually activates our parasympathetic nervous system, deep breathing or slow breathing. So being conscious and aware of your breath. And what I like to tell my clients is, because, we get busy, we get stressed, we get in the moment, we're constantly, we're working, we've got to do this project, we've got to go to here, we've got to go there, we've got to do everything. And what I like to tell my clients is either set an alarm to remind you to breathe. Smartwatches are really good at, telling you when it's time to slow down and breathe. And it doesn't have to be, 10 minutes of deep breathing. It can be 3 conscious, slow, deep breaths. Or when you go to the toilet, when you go to the toilet, take that time to sit and relax. Or when you stop at the traffic lights when you're driving to work, because often we can be rushing because we're we've got to get somewhere in time. There's lots of traffic, that can be quite stressful. So when you're at the traffic lights, making that conscious effort to take a few deep breaths. Practicing mindfulness or meditation. Now, this is a tricky one because when sometimes meditation can be seen as going into a deep, relaxing state where nothing can disturb you. You close your eyes, you put on your music, your mind goes still, and you're meditating. And that's actually really quite difficult for us to do. Shutting down our mind in meditation is really, really tricky, particularly when we're in that sympathetic nervous state where our cortisol's racing and our minds are racing. So to me, meditation can be lots of different things. It can be going out in the garden and pulling out some weeds. It can be going for a walk and taking notice of your feet on the pavement, the sounds around you, your breath moving in and out. It's about being present and in the moment and aware of what's going on for you right now, rather than your mind racing about what it needs to do in an hour next week when the kids come home. So it's about being present and being in the moment. That's what mindfulness and meditation is for me. Exercise is also really great, and often when we're feeling, stressed and burnt out, who wants to go for a walk and add that, on top of what you've already got to do, or you've got to get up and at 6 o'clock in the morning and do yoga. That's not relieving your stress, that's adding to your stress. So it's about bringing in some regular exercise and activity that is going to promote the release of the endorphins and those beautiful, happy, relaxing hormones. And that may be working hard out in the garden, or, playing with your children, playing with the kids on the floor or something. It may not just be going for a 20-minute walk or something. It's about being physical, dancing with the kids in the lounge room, just bringing some fun into that physical activity as well. It's also about nourishment and sleep. So being, getting enough sleep is really, really difficult. And I've been there. I've been in that state of high stress, high overwhelm, wired and tired. I go to bed exhausted, but it takes me 3 hours to get to sleep, and then I constantly wake up, and then I wake up early, and you're just getting, 5 hours of sleep if you're lucky, but you're in bed for, maybe 8 hours or something. And so getting that good sleep is really going to help support that relaxing state and that nervous system. Excuse my voice. So, sleep. So setting yourself a beautiful sleep routine. So shutting off your devices at least an hour before bed to promote that beautiful sleep hormone, the melatonin, to be able to rise, and that cortisol to be able to lower. And I always say, we create sleep routines for our kids when they're little. Mine used to be we have dinner, we have a bath, it's a little bit of playtime, then we read a book, brush your teeth, go to bed. So we need to be able to create those beautiful sleep routines for ourselves, because number one, we deserve them, to be able to give ourselves that love and that self-care. And number two, it's going to help to relax our nervous system and reduce that cortisol and allow that melatonin to increase. So what just popped into my mind then is sometimes we can go to bed, we can do our sleep routine, and we go to bed and our mind is just going about all the things that we need to do, or all the things that we should have done, or playing something over and over in our minds. And for that, I recommend getting out a book, or preferably not your notes on your phone, because you're having that blue light again. So getting yourself a book, and just writing everything down that's in your mind to get that out of your mind so that you don't have to keep going over it. And then once that's out, just thanking yourself and allowing your mind to slow down and relax. So it's setting a beautiful sleep routine, and allowing your mind to be able to slow down and your melatonin to increase so that you can get a deeper sleep. There's some beautiful essential oils or magnesium bath blends that you can buy to put in your bath to help with that relaxation, or maybe some beautiful essential oils in a diffuser in your room before you go to bed, playing some beautiful music as well. These are all really beautiful ways to help your body relax before you're going to sleep. And nourishment, so what you're putting into your body. So there are foods that are going to increase that cortisol even further, and the main ones are going to be caffeine, alcohol, and sugar. So they're going to be increasing that cortisol and keeping you in that state of fight or flight, that sympathetic nervous system state. So it's a good idea to reduce your caffeine intake, and maybe not having any after lunch. This is if you're having trouble sleeping, and also if you're really spiking in that anxiety and that stress and then crashing in the afternoon. Getting rid of that caffeine is really going to help to reduce that cortisol. Sometimes we think, a glass of wine or some alcohol in the evening just to help you relax, which, sounds like a really nice theory, but in reality, that alcohol is increasing your cortisol and making your sleep worse than what it would be. So these are some really easy, simple ways that you can help to reduce your own cortisol. If you're feeling like, you're really struggling, you're really burnt out, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you just can't put these things in place or you can't sustain them, then there are some beautiful herbal remedies that can help to support you as well. And there's quite a few, and I'm not going to go through them all because they're dependent on you and your particular situation. So you may be able to go to the chemist or chemist warehouse and buy some herbs for stress and stuff, but I just want you to think about, are these the right ones that your body needs? Are they actually supporting the underlying drivers of your stress? Are they at a therapeutic dosage rate? Or are you just wasting your money? So if you're looking for some extra support, please don't hesitate to, book in for a free discovery call or book in for a consultation, and we can get you on track to supporting that nervous system with some beautiful adaptogen herbs. Okay, so another thing that is really important and that I find really increases stress is those expectations we put upon ourselves. So if we can try and change our reactions and our expectations, we can help to reduce that sympathetic nervous system. So this might mean setting boundaries and saying no to things that drain us, because, often we're yes people and we're pleasers, and we like to be able to support and help everyone in whatever way we can. None of us are perfect, and that's okay. We can't do it all. Our bodies aren't designed to do it all. It's our own expectations, our family's expectations, cultural expectations, societal expectations that are all dumped upon us that we feel like we need to stand up to and achieve. And this is where I want you to say, okay, so the dishes didn't get done today. It's not the end of the world. Let's do them tomorrow. And if we don't do them tomorrow, let's do them the next day. It's about changing that mindset that you have to do it all and you have to be seen and perceived in a certain way, and as a certain person. Give yourself the grace and the permission to rest when you need to. So listening to your body so that you can reduce that unnecessary stress, slow your nervous system down, and prevent those chronic illnesses and symptoms and diseases that can come from constant state of stress. So let's just summarize all of that. So stress and overwhelm are an inevitable part of life, but we don't have to let them control us. So by understanding how that stress affects our body, and supporting ourselves with natural remedies and self-care practices, and changing our expectations, we can reduce the impact of stress on our lives. We can change our response to stress. So it's all about finding balance, giving ourselves the space to rest and recharge, listening to your body and what your body is needing. So no one's perfect, and we don't have to be either. We just have to be ourselves. We just have to do what we can do and get done what we can get done, and rest without feeling guilty when we need to. So thank you for being here today and listening. I hope you leave feeling more empowered to make those small changes that can lead to those big shifts in your own health and well-being.